a world where good-looking people are immortalized by TV, film, and magazines, the modeling industry is one of the most powerful and glamorized industries across the world. Never before have we seen what really goes on behind the scenes in the modeling world. From sex and drugs to racism and scrutiny. In this powerful documentary, we expose true life experiences of real models and agents, completely raw and unfiltered.
Yeah, I mean, all the inexperienced girls are more difficult to work with. You know, direct them, and like it's a lot more work because you have to direct them how to move their body, how to position their face, relax their lips.
I'm gonna know when I look at you and when I take a Polaroid of you if you have the potential to do this or not. You know, everybody's like, well, if I test another time, I'll get more pictures and no, it happens or it doesn't.
It's really, really sad. You know, you see these kids that have everything going on in the world for them. They make tons of money and they throw it all down the drain because they get hooked on heroin or coke.
My heart kind of flipped out and went into palpitations.
This business is a glamorous, sensual, erotic, nighttime, festive business.
Amazing money, and all day long I'm in white linen sheets with this woman basically naked.
I hate you, I'm so mad at you, why won't you let me die?
And everybody's like, what's wrong with you? You're so skinny, are you eating? And I'm like, it's fabulous. No, I'm not eating, but it's amazing.
If the parents aren't educated and the kids aren't educated, and the agents aren't taking responsibility and the clients aren't taking responsibility, who's taking responsibility for what's happening to our kids? My name is Marie Philemon Anderson. I'm the one that's written 2 books on how to become a model. So then I was known as an owner of Aria Model and Talent Management. I don't know if you've noticed, but he's rather good looking, and he photographs exceptionally well.
Marie Anderson Boyd is the agent that saw those pictures and knew she had another supermodel on her hands. She should know Marie was the agent that discovered Cindy Crawford.
Everybody that I work with, I have great care for, and they get into my heart. One particular person, he had so much going for him. He was gorgeous and charming and intelligent and had everything. He was college educated and such a neat guy. But he got so caught up in the glamour and the drugs and the alcohol that when he was in Miami, he hung himself. He hung himself in his closet for his roommate to come in and find. And I can't say his name, but he's the reason I'm doing that. Because I didn't really understand back then that as an agent, I could be much more involved with education. And going to his gravesite and having his parents hugging me and telling me that I was the one person in the business that he trusted, that he knew that I had his best interest in mind. And these are parents that are grieving over their son's death, and they're hugging me, thanking me for being there. I felt so badly that I wasn't there enough for him. And this is, as I say, I can't say his name, but he knows I'm doing this for him. I had modeled on and off since I was a child, and really, in my opinion, I got into the business when I was 20 years old with no formal experience running Stan Malinowski, the fashion photographer's studio at the age of 20. It was like a miraculous intervention in my life. I finally found, I found the fashion business, and I found such an amazing world of creative types, and I felt so connected to them. And I mean, my goodness, working in Rome in the designer Valentino's atelier with Iman, shooting all of the Italian collections with the other major models of the time. I mean, it was the most spectacular experience. Then we'd go to New York and we'd shoot the cover of Vogue, and then we'd come to Chicago and shoot a week of catalog for Sears. I mean, it was such an amazing education. It gave me a fabulous foundation to become an amazing booker, and also an amazing education to create a life for myself, financially independent of anybody. So it was right around 23 and a half that I had only been working for Stewart Talent for a couple months. Now keep in mind, I had already had 3.5 years working with Stan worldwide. So I was working with Valentino and Lancetti and Fendi and some of the most talented international clients. And then, of course, working in New York with the Americans, and then coming back to Chicago and working with the catalog models. So I had such a diverse understanding. So there I was, 23 and a half, been working for Stewart Talent, which was a tiny little agency at the time. And I was interviewing the makeup artist, George Statner, because not only was I booking female fashion models, I was also booking hairdressers, makeup artists, and clothing stylists. And I was looking through George Statner's book, and I saw this adorable teenager in his book. I said, oh my gosh, who's this girl? She's really cool. He said, forget about it. She doesn't want a model. She's been turned down by all the other agencies. I said, why? I think she's amazing. He said, well, she's got a beauty mark, and people want her to remove that. And I said, remove it. I think that's what makes her really unique. And that's what I look for in talent, is something unique, so it's not all the same standard beauty. So I pleaded with George to help me find her. He did. I had to convince her over the phone. I wasn't going to be like the other agents, because she lived out of town. It was easily an hour away in DeKalb from downtown Chicago. So she acquiesced. She came and she met with me, her and her mom and her dad, and essentially sell them on me. And the interesting thing was, you have to understand, Cindy was just a kid in high school. She wasn't the big supermodel that she became. She was just a really pretty high school girl. And I was a new booker, so I took a chance. When you're in the business and you send out a model, people judge you by your quality of your eye. And so I took a chance on this new high school girl, but I knew, just based upon her beauty and her intelligence and her personality, that I had a winner. I mean, I had been working around the world already with the top models. It wasn't that much more to figure out that Cindy Crawford was going to be a supermodel as well. Working with Cindy was a joy. She was the consummate professional from day one. She set the precedent. She set the barometer for me. Working with the other models, and I loved it. I used to have these new faces classes where I'd have a makeup artist come in and talk about makeup, and the hairdresser, and it was just so much fun to watch her evolve and to develop. She wasn't an overnight success. A lot of people don't realize that. It seems like she came out of nowhere, but she worked really, really hard. In the beginning, photographers were turning her away because the beauty mark on her face and because she had dark circles underneath her eyes, and her beauty was very, very progressive for that time. The only other model that preceded her was Gia, and who was a huge model, but unfortunately ended up dying of AIDS as a result of her drug abuse. But Cindy was pretty much a baby Gia. People took her in to embrace her exotic beauty, but it wasn't overnight. I had no clue 10 years ago how I was inadvertently contributing to all the dark, shady areas of the business. And the reason I didn't know is that I didn't realize that I had a problem myself on many levels. And I also didn't realize how important I was. Not only did I feel like a hypocrite, I felt whacked out of my mind. When I was an agent, not only was I suffering from my own eating disorder, but there I would edit film of my models who I thought had perfectly gorgeous bodies, but according to agency standards elsewhere, I had to make sure that the models got thinner. So it was my job to tell these girls that they weren't thin enough. So not only did I feel I was a hypocrite, but I just thought it was a very sick experience for myself, but that was my job. When I worked in Europe, it was rare that a model wasn't doing any drugs and wasn't drinking. When I worked in Chicago, it was, I would say, maybe 10% of the time, because, my goodness, we're in the Midwest there in Chicago. We're surrounded by farms, but makes it not so glamorous, makes it the I think the healthiest place for a model, one of the healthiest places for a model to get started, because there's not as much glamour. Because the closer you get to the power, the closer you get to the politics and the manipulations and the greed that all comes with that power and that sick behavior that is attached to it. When I had Aria, we would make sure if we were having a party for adults, I would try to get the parents chaperone as much as possible. I'd make sure that the party was early enough. So we would start around 7 or 8 o'clock so the kids could come, drink non-alcoholic beverage. We'd make sure that they were identified by a wristband or some kind of a sticker to make sure that the waiter or the waitress or the bartender knew that they were underage. Alcohol, it's difficult to avoid it, actually. You go to a party, there's drinking. You go to a barbecue, there's drinking. You go to a fashion show, there's drinking. Every time you turn around, there's drinking. And it's very, very difficult to avoid it. And what happens a lot of times is that clients don't want to be finicky or to be prissy, so they will allow the underage kids to drink. So it's, you have 16, 17-year-old kids in a fashion show. They go backstage, either before the show, during the show, after the show. There's champagne running around. Nobody's watching to make sure that these underage kids aren't drinking. Before you know it, they start off as a 16-year-old drinking champagne at a show, and before you know it, they're 18 years old and full-fledged alcoholics. On a daily basis, clients would say, she's not black enough, or her nose isn't big enough. We need somebody who really looks like an African, or her hair is too straight. We need it to be kinky like other black people. And I just don't think that people really think about what they're saying and how harmful their words are. And when they say those things, how other people hear it and they repeat it as well. So if a client is saying something ignorant or whatever, racially slanted, and they're the person that's in power, and other people hear that, they think it's okay to say. But the reality is that our business is racist, and we live in a racist society, so that's, the modeling business is not immune from experiencing racism. True story, I found this gorgeous, light-skinned African-American girl in Cleveland when I ran Elite Chicago, and she was a little on the shorter side. She had been in the pageant business and was interested in acting, so she already had a headshot and a little resume from the Ohio area, and I fell in love with her. I thought she was amazing, and but knowing she was on the shorter side, it would require a little bit of a sell on my part, because I was the vice president then of Elite Chicago. And I brought her composite and her headshot and her resume back to Chicago. And I show the composite to my bookers, and they're like, she's short and she's a pageant girl, she's not a fashion model. I'm like, but we can make her into one. And no, we're not interested. And there's no way I'm going to bring a girl into the market unless I know that the bookers are going to promote that model. So I'm like, okay, ixnay on the fashion A. So then I took the headshot and the resume into the agent at the time. God rest her soul, she's since passed, but took her to the agent, and I said, oh my gosh, look at this great girl I just found at a convention. She already has a headshot and resume. And she looks and she hands the headshot back to me, and she goes, we already have enough blacks. And I said, no, this one's special. Please, just try this girl. Trust me, she's really special. I met her, and she's like, forget it, Marie, forget it. I was crushed. It was Halle Berry. Most of the time, I don't think it's intentional racism. I think that they're not very educated. For example, if you take a little group of African-American models and you put them in a photo shoot that is supposedly these new high school graduates, and you put them in their cap and gown and you stick them on a basketball court in front of a wall full of graffiti, that is quite cliche, as if creating this shot to make it look like these are all the only thing the black people do is play basketball, and all they're capable of doing is earning an income that's commensurate with an inner city life. It's devastating, but the truth is there's a lot of sexual predators in this world, and a lot of them are in the model and talent business. You have to understand that clients are in the position of power, and so often the models, the hairdressers, makeup artists, photo assistants, whatever, are intimidated by that power, and many people in the position of power take advantage, and they do it through their sexual predatory desires. They take full opportunity to use these young, naive people as prey. For example, sexual harassment. One of my female models was having dinner with her agent in Paris, and he stuck his hand between her legs with the short skirt that she was wearing. And one of my male models was in New York doing a photo shoot, doing a test late at night with a photographer who was a male. And as he was standing on set with his underwear on, the photographer was arranging his front of his underwear, allegedly to make it look better, but actually the male model felt that he was just copying a feel. This kind of boundary crossing over happens throughout the day, and a good portion of the time, I think it's intentional. I know it's intentional. I've had so many inappropriate sexual experiences myself when I first got into this business. One time I was in Rome working with Stan Malinowski, and one of the most powerful men in the fashion business had thrown me against the wall of his hotel suite because I wouldn't sleep with him and his editor. And fortunately, I had the wherewithal. I pushed him off of me, and I opened up the huge door inside the Grand Hotel, and I ran down these beautiful marble steps, and I ran across the street and cried myself to sleep. I was devastated because I thought I just ruined my boss's career by not sleeping with this very powerful person. And the next morning, I was getting on the bus and with all the supermodels of the time, and that particular man was standing by the bus, and he sees me and he goes, ciao Maria, bella, come stai? Mwah, mwah. He treated me like nothing had even happened. In the meantime, I was completely crushed. But it turned out it was okay, thankfully. The modeling business is that there's so much opportunity for people to do whatever they want to do, to explore all of their ideas and to collaborate with their peers and to travel around the world and to learn different languages and eat different types of food. And I mean, what other business could somebody who is essentially uneducated, with the exception of high school? I had been homeless and living on food stamps at the age of 17. I mean, I had no formal liaison to get me into this business. It was just, I think it was divine intervention to give me a life and to put me in a situation where all my creative juices could flow. If I had a child and they said, Mom, I want to get into the modeling business, my first reaction was, please don't make me. Please don't make me put you into the modeling business. But as long as I knew that I was going to be around to make sure that that person had enough information and that they felt fully prepared to move forward, I would definitely get them into the business because I know I would be there. And I would also have my network of other agents that I trusted that would continue on with the same care that I had begun with that person. Because I think it can be an amazing career. There are so many parents who themselves don't have a good education when it comes to drugs and eating disorders and the whatnot. So if the parents don't know, where are the kids going to learn it from? Another one of the reasons that I opened up my company, Studio Galatea, was so that not only will I empower by educating the kids, I also have seminars for the parents as well to teach them, so we can make sure that everybody's working on the same page. It scares me what's happening in our country, and if the parents aren't educated and the kids aren't educated, and the agents aren't taking responsibility and the clients aren't taking responsibility, who's taking responsibility for what's happening to our kids? You know, so that's why I've walked away from owning my own agency, taken a chance, come across country into the desert, opened up Studio Galatea to enable people a place to come to and to get the real deal, to get the real information up front. Being an agent, when you connect with somebody on a really special level and then they leave, it's like losing a playmate. And it's a bittersweet experience because you know you've done your job and you know that they have to leave and you know that they have to evolve and you know you're not going to be part of that daily evolution. It's kind of like an envy, but you're doing what you need to do. Bring your family very close, talk about these things, empower yourself with information, read magazines, surf the internet, take classes, empower yourself with information so you won't become a victim. And I mean, learn about the fashion business, get a drug education, alcohol education, eating disorders, learn about how to interact with other cultures and not offend them, to be sensitive to their area of the world. I think it's all about people understanding that they are independent contractors and they have to take themselves seriously and be accountable for their actions.